colors with a really vibrant red color, and it's super delicious and simple to make. Also, the cream cheese frosting on the outside is a whipped cream cheese frosting with whipping cream and cream cheese. It's a very simple whipped cream cheese frosting, so let's get on to making it. For the cake batter, first let's prepare dry ingredients. For that, here I've taken flour, baking powder and cocoa powder. For this recipe, we're also going to be using baking soda, but baking soda we're going to put it in the last with the vinegar. That way the cake is going to be much softer. Just combine these three ingredients together and then we can sift it. This is a sponge cake, so make sure to sift your dry ingredients at least 2 to 3 times. That way the cake is going to be much softer. Once that's done, keep the dry ingredients aside and then we can start with beating the eggs. Since it's a sponge cake, we're going to be whipping the egg white and the egg yolks different. We need to foam up the egg whites and whip it really well. So separate the egg whites from the egg yolks. And also make sure there's not a single bit of egg yolk in the egg white. If it is there, then the egg whites are not going to whip up very well. Separate it and put it into a large mixing bowl. Pour the egg whites into the large bowl. Then take your egg yolks, into it add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract and beat it. Why we're pouring the vanilla extract is because the smell of the yolks will reduce down with the vanilla extract. So pour it, mix it and keep it aside. Next, take the bowl with the egg whites, into it add in the salt and start beating it. In between, gradually we have to add in the white granulated sugar. Gradually add in the sugar. Do not dump the sugar all at once, then the egg whites are not going to whip up very well. So while you're beating it, slowly add in the sugar and whip it to a stiff peaks consistency. Now I've added in all the sugar and been beating for around 8 minutes. And you can see that the egg whites have come to a stiff peak consistency like this. The peaks should stand stiff and tall, and when you flip it over, the egg whites are not going to come out of the bowl and they're still going to stand stiff. Next, into it, let's pour in the egg yolks and the vanilla mixture we made earlier. Pour that in, use the hand beater and beat it again. Just beat it until it's nice and fluffy. And after adding the egg yolks, you'll see that the consistency will loosen up a little more. It's not going to be stiff peaks. Next, into it, we can sift in the dry ingredients. Sift it little by little. First, add half of it. Fold it in really well and then add the rest of it. Again, make sure to sift it into the batter because it's a sponge cake, and if you want the cake to be airy and soft, sift it in. Also, while folding the batter, make sure that you fold it very gently since we've beaten the egg really well. You don't want any of the air bubbles to deflate, then the cake is not going to be soft. Now I'm going to add in the second half of the dry ingredients and I'm going to keep mixing it very softly and gently fold it in. Here I've folded the dry ingredients in. I'm going to set that aside. Next, take a smaller bowl and into it I'm going to pour in the wet ingredients. That's the oil and the milk. Also, add in the gel food color. Just enough to make it a nice and dark red color. Mix that up really well. And then add in a little bit of the batter we made earlier. Fold it in, slowly mix it. Once it's mixed without any lumps and is smooth enough, you can pour it into the batter. Then slowly use the cut and fold method to mix it into the batter. When you're making red velvet cake and using red food color, make sure to use a very good quality food color. And also the food color doesn't have a definite amount, it's according to the color you want. Next, here I've taken baking soda and vinegar. So you're going to pour the vinegar into the baking soda and let it bubble up like that. So when it starts bubbling up, you can pour it into the cake batter. This method of mixing the baking soda with the vinegar, it's going to give you a much more softer and spongier cake. It's also going to let you maintain that good red color even after baking. Mix that up again and pour it into a baking pan. Here I've taken a 6-inch baking pan lined with parchment paper. I'm going to pour the batter, all of it, into the pan. and fill only around 3/4 of the pan because the cake is going to rise quite a bit. Tap it a few times to release any large air bubbles and then keep it into a preheated oven to bake. Once it's baked, insert a skewer and check if it's clean. If it comes out clean, then you know the cake is baked. Let it cool completely in the pan itself, then take it out of the pan and cut it into 3 layers. The cake is pretty soft, so while cutting, make sure to cut it slowly. Then here I have some extra crumbs, red velvet crumbs, which I'm gonna crumble it and bring it to a powder like this. Next, let's make the whipped cream cheese frosting. Here in a mixing bowl, I've taken Philadelphia cream cheese. Into it, I'm gonna add in powdered sugar, along with a little bit of vanilla extract. Then beat it until it's a creamy consistency. Beat it together with the sugar. Also scrape down the sides in between to incorporate any excess sugar in. Then beat it again and cream it. Here the consistency is very well creamed up. Now I'm going to set that aside for a while. Next, here I've taken another large mixing bowl into which I'm going to pour in 1 cup of whipped cream. This is the brand that I'm using. Any brand will do fine if you think it's going to whip up really well. Then add in enough icing sugar, maybe around a tablespoon. Then beat it again. Beat it until it's nice and soft peaks. This kind of consistency. Once it's soft peaks, we can add in the cream cheese and beat it to another stiff peaks consistency. So after adding the cream cheese, I've beaten it for around another minute, and here you can see that the whipped cream is nice and stiff. At this point, set the hand beater aside, scrape down the sides, and the whipped cream cheese frosting is totally ready. Now the cake layers are ready, the cream cheese frosting is ready. Now all you have to do is assemble the cake. For that, here I've taken a turntable with a cake board. Put a nice dollop of whipped cream on the bottom. Then keep your first layer of cake, brush it with sugar syrup. The cake is already pretty soft, but brushing it with sugar syrup is going to make the cake much more softer. Next, keep the whipped cream cheese frosting. A nice thick layer will be good. Then spread all the way toward the sides and keep the second layer of cake. Again, brush it with sugar syrup, keep the frosting. Continue doing this until all your layers of cake are done. The third and final layer of cake, brush it with sugar syrup, and then we can crumb coat the cake. The crumb coat isn't actually necessary because I'm going to cover the side of the cake with crumbs, but if you're not doing the same design as mine, then go ahead and crumb coat your cake. Once you're done with the crumb coat, keep it into the refrigerator and let it chill. Taking it out of the refrigerator, you need to frost the cake, but I'm not going to frost the sides of the cake because I'm covering it with crumbs anyway. So I don't want the sides to be frosted. I'm just going to frost the top of the cake like that and then cover the sides with crumbs. These are the crumbs that I made earlier. I'm just going to take it and brush it onto the side of the cake like this. So decorating the cake is totally up to you. If you want, you can go ahead and do your own decoration and creativity like you like it. I've just covered the sides with crumbs. Then here I've taken some melted white chocolate which I've colored with red food coloring. Then make lines with the chocolate like this. I put it into a piping bag, just making small lines and making a decoration on top. Do what you want with your cake, it's totally up to you, the decorations. I'm just making lines like this. And then using the same whipped cream cheese frosting to pipe on the bottom sides and on the top sides. And here my red velvet cake is ready. Just keep this in the refrigerator for an additional 1 hour to set everything together. And then you can cut into the cake. And while cutting itself, you'll understand how soft the cake is. It's super simple and delicious. The cream cheese frosting gives this cake an extra kick and flavor. So I hope everybody tries this recipe out. The cake is super soft and delicious. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Also ring that notification bell so that you get notifications every time I post a new video. Thanks for watching. Love cooking. Bye bye.